Major funding for Telehell is provided by Dave's Archives. At Dave's Archives, he personally transfers, archives, and preserves classic commercials from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s and shares them with you. Don't forget about his Friday night live stream on, well, guess when? Go to davesarchives.com. By RetroCirc on YouTube. Do you love retro commercials with an original twist? Join the best mimes this side of the internet for a dose of nostalgia every week at RetroCirc, spelled with a Q at the end. RetroCirc, where nostalgia is the main attraction. By Kier's Nostalgia Corner, a collection of commercial compilations, retro nostalgic things, and other random things that come to mind. Look for her on YouTube at KIERS Nostalgia Corner, and don't forget to check out her live streams early in the week. By Kev the Ripper on YouTube, home to some of the most obscure TV shows you may or may not have heard of, all with original commercials and all not seen since their original air dates. It's Kev the Ripper at KEVRIPZ. And by the very generous benefactors who grace us on our Patreon at patreon.com/Telehell Podcast, including Rhonda Farrell, Rick Kalacki Jr., Chris Michaud, Meredith Morrissey, Rabite, Matt Seelig, Spare Parts, and Neil Weinstein. Thank you. Merry Christmas. I've got nothing. I mean it, too. This is probably going to be the most non-Christmas Christmas special that any form of media will have ever seen or have heard. And that's kinda sorta on me because at first I really was not planning on doing a Christmas special this year. I mean, we've already told you we're not coming back with new shows until this coming January. And that's kind of why we've also been putting on Patreon clip shows, you know, the sports show, the food show, another Q&A show, and all that stuff. And really, you know, that's just to keep the lights on. But I didn't want to do a Christmas show. Nobody was forcing me to do a Christmas show. This is not even my idea right now to speak into a microphone. But then something happened. Nothing out of the ordinary. It's just... Have you noticed that the world has gone to shit lately?
A vigil for those killed in the Wisconsin school shooting.
Massive flames in Southern California forcing evacuations.
Hawaii plane crash. What happened when the pilot lost control?
New charges for the suspect in the...
I mean, pretty much everywhere you look, there's gonna be some bad news out there. And believe me, I've told you more than my fair share of bad news just in the past few months alone. But that's kind of why we have the holidays. Not just to open up a gift or two, but you got the whole togetherness thing, and you got the whole family thing, and the fact that it's supposed to be a festive time of year, and just, you know, the mood is supposed to be a lot happier, which I can tell you has been a bit of a challenge just the past few months alone. I mean, I don't even have a script in front of me, and I'm just venting my frustrations to you right now. That's how little I wanted to do a Christmas show, but then I started realizing how selfish that would sound. And Christmas is not the time of year to be selfish. It's definitely the time of year to get severely inebriated and maybe gain a couple pant sizes out of frustration, especially when it comes to consuming food and drink, but that would kind of ruin the illusion for podcasts to be theater of the mind. So I got to thinking, if you're not really planning on doing a Christmas special or a holiday special of any kind, what can you do to fill the time? Going through our Patreon, we only really did one Christmas thing in all these many years. Maybe 1.5 if you consider some Pho-HO-Rama shows that we did, and that's when you start thinking to yourself, well, sometimes the best Christmas presents are the ones that come straight from your own two hands. So, in the spirit of ingenuity and also that Garfield Christmas special where Odie made Garfield a back scratcher, if you know, you know, here's what we're going to be doing in this otherwise cobbled together holiday special. We are going to be playing that one Patreon Christmas thing that talks about a certain commercial of the holidays, and we are also going to be doing that Pho-HO-Rama, which, considering it's December, it's the time of year to go shopping, and it's vaguely Christmas themed, but also, just to make sure that nobody tunes out completely, I do have something else up my sleeve that I've been waiting for this particular occasion to tell you, and that would be our first shows of Season 7. Now that I got your attention, we're going to ramp ourselves up to that, and I promise there are shows to tell you about, but let's actually get to something holiday-centric first, and this was our 4th installment of Pho-HO-Rama, and for those who don't know what Pho-HO-Rama is, this is where we take a look at vintage infomercials and dial the 1-800 numbers from there to see if anything's on the other end of the line. And I think the very thin veneer of holiday stuff that we have here for this one is that I'm trying to find last-minute gifts for some people. So it counts. I think it counts. So why don't we take a look at this Pho-HO-Rama from December 23rd, 2022. And in an attempt to try to come up with even more of a holiday veneer, we called this one Pho-HO-HOne-O-Rama. That's about as good a Santa as I can give you right now. Enjoy! So, Christmas. Great. Okay, I'll be completely honest with everybody here. It's the day before Christmas, and I really didn't want to do any work today. But you know how it is in the underworld. You gotta do what the boss says, otherwise your soul gets permanently vaporized. So here we are with a special holiday edition of Pho-HO-Rama, which I'm going to have to put a lot of asterisks on because these commercials don't necessarily have anything to do with the holidays because they don't have any holiday theming in them. So let's compromise just a little bit and say that all the stuff that we're going to be looking at today are things that you may consider buying as sort of a last-minute stocking stuffer or something like that. A reminder of the rules, we are only dialing 1-800 numbers, anything within the North American continent, and no 900 numbers or numbers that simply do not connect to anywhere. That being said, let's take a good look at some infomercials and see if we can still order things with operators standing by.
My guest for the next 30 minutes, won't you? Let me introduce you to something I know you will want for your kitchen. The grillery from Toastmaster.
Oh, I think we're gonna have a little bit of fun with this one. Who else but the bad guy from the Wonder Woman 1974 TV movie, among other roles, would pretty much use what's left of his life to plug a grill that George Foreman would actually improve upon. Just listen to some of these ringing endorsements.
Hundreds of years ago, when this land was young, there was very little spare time. Cooking had to be fast and simple out of necessity. Well, is it any different today? Toastmaster doesn't think so. That's why they bring you the grillery, so that you can grill, bake, and prepare foods like these in very little time.
And yes, you can fry all the meats to the consistency of soft Corinthian leather. Sorry, had to do that.
Everything you see here is delicious. And it was all made with the Toastmaster grillery. Steaks, chicken, fish, complete meals with entrees and side dishes, delicious snacks made in minutes. Now is your opportunity to try the grillery for yourself. To try it, in fact, risk-free. Order the grillery, use it. Make the recipes, experience the speed and ease of cooking with the grillery.
Anyway, let's see if the Toastmaster still exists, and if it does, let's also find out if indeed George Foreman bought the rights to it. All right, it is, the product's actually called The Grillery, and Toastmaster is actually the overall brand name, so let's, not split too many hairs here. So let's give The Grillery a call. 1-800, 3-digit number, and 4-digit number, and let's see who's on the other end.
Your call did not go through. Please try your call again. Your call did not go through. Please try your call again.
Okay, so I can't stuff anybody's stocking with a Toastmaster or a Grillery or both. Why don't we try something that's a little more hip and with it?
When it comes to the music of the 90s, anything goes.
Thanks, Satan, that this is the premium show, because if this was happening on our regular shows, we'd have to edit the ever-loving shit out of the music that's in here, because this is a music compilation. In fact, it's not just any music compilation, it's music of what life was like living in the 90s. Or at least living in the 90s as of 1995, when half the decade wasn't completed yet. But the 90s hits were there. At least the 90s hits that some of us have heard of. I mean, there's Jump Around by House of Pain, and a bunch of other stuff that didn't exactly maintain its relevancy, because in 1992, Kurt Cobain pretty much destroyed everybody else's careers. Nevertheless, the 90s, dude!
Living in the 90s has the songs you know, the songs you love, and the songs you just can't live without.
Can't touch this.
Well, if we're lucky, we can still buy this 2-disc CD set of all these hits from the 90s, and at least up until 1995. All the other years in the 90s will be irrelevant, I'm sure. So let's give the 90s a call. See who we can get. Maybe get ourselves some Day-Glo clothing at the same time. And dial. That's one. That's two. That's three. One more. Who needs the 90s on 2 CDs? I can always listen to it on Sirius XM if I had to. Of course, we're in hell. We can't get Sirius XM down here. I have to listen to terrestrial radio, for crying out loud. Anyway, next item.
Introducing NutriFry, the revolutionary convection pan. Crisp fried food flavor without the cholesterol and calories. Instead of frying in this much, you use this much. The secret is this unique thermal jet. It surrounds your food with a continuous stream of superheated air.
Yeah, the 90s seem to have been on some sort of kick involving, healthy things, because it's not like people actually cared about their waistlines. Oh, wait, yeah, they did, because it was the 90s and people actually cared about that stuff back then. Ergo, another predecessor to the George Foreman grill known as the NutriFry.
Dry fries, roasts, and barbecues, all for only $29.95. Here's how to order.
Which I guess is pretty much prototype for air fryers as we know them, because all you really need is just 1 spoonful of vegetable oil, set it, forget it. Oh wait, that's Ron Popeil. But in the meantime, let's see if we can order ourselves a NutriFry. And here we go. Oh, come on.
Your call did not go through. Please try your call again. Your call did not go through. Please try your call again.
Actually, let me try something that we have not yet tried in Pho-HO-Rama. You'll notice that most of these numbers start with 1-800, but sometimes maybe it's just 800 instead of the 1 at the beginning. So why don't we try dialing 800 without the 1 at the beginning? See if that gets us anywhere. Okay, the 1-800 number without the 1 in it.
Bananas?
Yes.
Toast?
Yes. Bubblegum? Yes.
Pancakes?
Yes.
Fries?
Get out. Get out. There's one every year. I will not tolerate clowning.
Car keys?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm not giving up yet on finding a stocking stuffer for the holidays, so why don't we go and take a look at something that I know still exists in some shape, capacity, or form. As a matter of fact, so much does it still exist that a big-time movie star actually uses it.
You Flo-B your hair. You give yourself haircuts.
I do.
George Clooney is a big fan of the Flo-B, and now good luck finding one.
It seems like with the Flo-B, you can do any kind of a cut imaginable.
The Flo-B is a hair trimmer that hooks up to a vacuum cleaner. It was huge in the 1980s. And now it's making a comeback after so many barbers and hair salons closed during the pandemic.
I love my haircuts when I do the Flo-B.
Oh yes, we remember the Flo-B, the vacuum cleaner that can cut your hair and make your head look like it's some sort of geometric shape. And you may think that a product like this could not possibly exist in the 21st century, but thanks to a very key product placement during an episode of Jimmy Kimmel Live a few years ago, one of the biggest movie stars in the world not only still swears by it, but the Flo-B is actually seeing kind of a renaissance because of it.
Like the Oscar winner, Tom White, who lives in Montana, bought his first Flo-B way back when.
It's given me the opportunity to have a perfect haircut every 2 to 3 weeks.
When the pandemic struck, he introduced his son-in-law Jason to the Flo-B. Jason says before the pandemic, he always poked fun at his father-in-law for using the Flo-B.
Now, unfortunately, I haven't spotted a modern Flo-B commercial, so we're going to have to use this one that we see here from 1988, giving people the most ridiculous-looking haircuts, and yet they still believe it's a very hip and with it kind of thing. So that's personal taste aside. Let's give the Flo-B from 1988 a call and see if George Clooney's stamp of approval can help stock this stuffing or stuff this stocking or vice versa. It's the holidays. I pretty much have holiday senioritis at this point. Oh, for crying out loud.
Try your call again. Your call did not go through. Please try your call again.
How much do you want to bet the lady on the other end there gets the biggest royalty checks every time somebody gets a wrong number? Okay, I'm not giving up. We're going to do something holiday related. I did manage to find one 1-800 number, which happens to have a Christmas theme attached to it.
Sarah, it's for you.
Hi, Santa.
Hello! This holiday, give those special little ones a magic moment with a call to Santa by dialing 1-800-HI-SANTA. The call is toll-free and the message from Santa is only $2. Charge it on Visa or MasterCard or send a $2 check or money order, and Santa will call you. It's as easy as calling 1-800-HI-SANTA.
Bye-bye, Santa.
Santa wants to talk to you.
Now, you may think that dialing Santa Claus may be a little too cheap, a little too chintzy, a little too against what the holiday represents. And especially since this is a 1-800 number instead of the usual 1-900 number, the fact that the call is toll-free but the message is still worth $2 to somebody's phone bill kind of raises more questions than answers. But it had to have worked for some people because, sure enough, in the 90s, we were inundated by 1-900 numbers featuring Santa.
Hello, boys and girls. Getting ready for Christmas sure is hard work. But now that I have a moment to spare, I set up my special Christmas phone just for you. So get your parents' permission and call 1-900-909-4300 to hear all about Santa's wonderful, magical Christmas time. Whoa.
Nevertheless, since they've already announced the phone number out loud, I don't feel we have to be anonymous when we mention that the number is indeed 1-800-HI-SANTA. All right, so here we go, 1-800-HI-SANTA from 1984. Let's see if we can get the big guy on the other end of the line.
Call may be monitored or recorded for quality or training purposes.
Uh-oh.
Thank you for calling Lansan. To place an order, please press 1. To find out the status of your order, please press 2. For returns, please press 3. For all other inquiries, please press 4.
What the hell, let's go for it.
Thank you for calling Land's End. My name is Jessica. How may I help you today?
Hi, Jessica. I think I may have dialed the wrong number, but this was supposed to be 1-800-HI-SANTA. I did not think that this was Land's End. I didn't think Land's End was still around. I thought they all went down with Sears.
No, sir. We're still around.
They're still around. Well, bless you for being still around. My mistake for calling you, and have yourself a merry little Christmas, okay?
You as well, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, might as well end it on some semblance of a happy ending. We struck out this time around, but for now, though, enjoy whatever holiday it is you celebrate, and I must now get my caller ID completely scrubbed because having a human interaction just felt weird. Okay, so that wasn't exactly a holiday thing, but consumerism is a part of it, right? Am I right? I'm probably not right. But okay, that was a bit of a warm-up. Now let's get to some actual holiday stuff. And unfortunately, like I said, this is the only actual holiday Patreon show that we've put out in the past few years. But I think this is going to be a very, shall we say, interesting story. There was a certain commercial that aired a couple years ago that was based on a commercial that aired back in the 80s. The update they made to that particular commercial is all kinds of questionable, and if certain banjo music that we use in this one is any indication, you'll probably understand why. As we talk about that Folgers commercial. Original air date, December 23rd, 2021. And try not to read too much into this. The holiday season brings out a number of things, largely those that are of the warm and fuzzy variety. And nowhere is this more evident than in the TV commercials that depict warm and fuzzy gatherings.
Santa bags are coming, Santa bags are coming, Santa bags are coming to your town. Watch out, look around.
And why not? After all, that's what the holidays are all about. Spending time together with loved ones that you might not have seen in a long time. Or if you're listening to this during the still ongoing pandemic, spending time together 24/7 while the other people that you wish to reconnect with would have to do so via Zoom meeting. But regardless of how cold and cynical most people have become in recent years, the holidays themselves still manage to bring people together in ways that feel more welcoming than they do forced and mandatory. Take, for instance, this classic commercial from the 1980s, which, because it's largely dialogue-free, I'll do the play-by-play.
What? Merry Christmas.
A young man arrives at his family home. From where, we don't know, but let's just assume it's been a while since he's lived there. As he's entering the home, a little girl, no more than 6 years old, is awoken by the clatter and starts to head downstairs to see what was the matter. The little girl sees that her big brother has come home, but the rest of the family is still asleep. Fortunately, the brother knows how to wake everybody up with a pot of fresh, mountain-grown Folgers coffee. After boiling the pot and taking a sip, the family comes down and is surprised by the arrival of the oldest child of the family coming home. That commercial first aired on TV in the 1980s, and for many years, it became a staple of the holiday season, almost as much as Jimmy Stewart and Edmund Gwenn.
Oh, you're home.
I missed you, Mom.
How you doing,
Best wishes for this and all your mornings from Folgers.
And when we say many years, we mean that the spot practically aired for decades with only some minor graphic changes being made. But the action remained the same. Same actors, same film, same timeless feel. But not timeless enough that in 2009, the ad firm of Saatchi & Saatchi decided it was time to update the commercial, especially since high-definition TV was starting to become more mainstream. So the same basic commercial was remade, only with new actors, but the overall message of the original spot was there. Folgers coffee was enough to bring families together for the holidays. And just as the original spot did before, it looked perfectly innocent on the surface. Big brother comes home from a volunteer Peace Corps mission and is greeted by his younger sister.
Must have the wrong house.
Sister?
Though In this case, the sister felt the need to inform him that she's his sister. Odd exposition choice, but whatever. And just as before, the brother and sister head to the kitchen to make a pot of coffee. Though the brother, who is coming home after spending an undisclosed amount of time in West Africa, makes this even odder statement.
Oh, real coffee.
And right there should be the part of the commercial that we should be complaining the most about. Granted, Folgers Coffee uses coffee beans from Colombia, which is also, in fact, real coffee, but you can't possibly get any realer than the coffee that they have in Africa, let alone West Africa. But let's move on. The parents wake up to the scent of Folgers in people's cups. As they do. The brother then gives an undetermined gift to the sister, who, we should point out, is much older looking in this version of the ad than the 6-year-old girl of the 1980s. Some would say she looks to be in her teens, though it's hard to tell if it's high school or college age. The girl then proceeds to take the ribbon from the gift and pins it on her brother, and caps off the ad with a simple declaration.
What are you doing?
You're my present this year.
The two of them then look at each other in a sense of awe, just as the parents come in to greet their son, and that's it. That's all the commercial was, a recreation and a reinterpretation of a classic ad updated for a modern-day audience.
The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
Or at least it would have been, were it not for the people watching the ad making some serious accusations about what it is they saw. For this commercial has a secret. A deep, dark, full-body, mountain-grown secret that, thanks to how warped people's senses can be sometimes, has altered the perception of the commercial forever. And it's because of that perception that just the mere mention of this commercial brings only one thing in mind.
I went, honey, no. They're only a couple in Arkansas.
Almost the instant that it aired, the commercial that's originally titled Coming Home wound up with a nickname that the people at Folgers or the ad firm of Saatchi & Saatchi didn't see coming. The incest ad. The interpretation of the ad was so off target from the actual message that everybody involved in the commercial had to wonder just exactly how they wound up getting to this point. Fortunately, in 2019, a GQ magazine article gave us as complete a history of the making of the commercial and its aftermath as they possibly could, interviewing the director, the creatives behind the scenes, and the actor who played the brother. The sister couldn't be reached for comment, possibly out of embarrassment and maybe the fact that she identified herself as sister in the ad.
Sister?
The director of the commercial, Ray Dillman, initially thought of the ad, quote, "I really connected with the writer, the late Doug Pippin. We struck up this relationship, with him talking about his son and me talking about my son. It was kind of his personal story. His son had been in the Peace Corps and had done some work out of the country and had come home for Christmas, and that was the inspiration for the story," end quote. While Jerry Boyle, a vice president for Saatchi & Saatchi, stated, quote, "You kind of get sucked into this story, which is nice. It was all very, very innocent. Obviously, what happened since then has been a real something that nobody imagined happening, and our client is so wholesome. It was, we thought, emotional," end quote. Even the actor who played the brother, Matthew Allen, felt that the entire experience was purely innocent, stating, quote, "It was a very magical, surreal experience. It was purely brother and sister at the time. It was pretty surprising when people started talking because this was a brother and sister thing," end quote. Which begs us to ask, just exactly how, aside from what was clearly being presented on the screen, did people wind up interpreting the ad the way they eventually did? Like many snowball effects, it started out small. In this case, on a blog called Cleveland is a Plum, which was run by Alexa Marinos, now a corporate manager. I always pay attention to commercials and ads, particularly holiday ones, because I'm always curious to see how brands flex and adapt their marketing for the holiday season. I used to do all my writing in front of the television, so when, I'll call it Peter Comes Home for Christmas 2.0 aired, I was sitting in front of my laptop, and I just remember immediately critiquing the spot in my head as a marketer, particularly the casting. The casting seemed off to me. I was like, why is Peter's little sister 22 instead of 4? And why is Peter, vibing on his little sister? End quote. Then, as is the case with most things viral, the notion started to spread like a virus to other blogs, then larger websites, then poorly worded and punctuated fan fiction that would raise more questions than answers, until it would reach peak surrealism by having the ad be parodied by upstart comedy people, the most famous of which so far has been done by Above Average Productions, which takes the original commercial and then adds this icing to the cake.
Emily, I love that we have so much in common because we grew up together. And I just want to wake up every morning to the smell of you and Folgers Colombian Dark Roast. Emily, will you make me the happiest brother?
Dad! Get off of him! I love him! No! No! Stop it! Stop it! No! I just want to my brother!
It's Folgers in your cup.
The writer of the parody, Glenn Bosen, felt this way about the original ad. Quote, "There was some vibe to the ad where I was like, is this a dog whistle or something? Okay, this brother's coming home from West Africa, seems to want to fuck his sister, and then they're trying to sell us coffee. What's happening?" I remember experiencing it alone, and then eventually I realized, talking to other people or watching TV with other people, that it wasn't just a me being sick in the head thing, end quote. A sickness that, as of this recording, has seen countless downloads, copies, parodies, and fan fiction pieces online for all the world to not only see, but continue to think that something wholesome could devolve into anything but. So, where does the Folgers Coming Home, aka Peter Comes Home 2.0 ad fit into the family tree of Telehell? The 9 circles are my present this year.
Limbo, lust, gluttony, greed, wrath, heresy, violence, fraud, treachery.
If you were to strip away every last piece of subtext that the commercial wound up having, the spot itself is, in fact, completely innocent. But because the subtext is highly inescapable, no matter how hard somebody tries to scrub the stigma clean, it's there. And the comments, opinions, and parodies that were made about it is only going to enhance that stigma for as long as people keep posting the video. So no matter how innocent the spot may appear, it's impossible to think of anything else the second the girl says,
"You're my present this year."
And they look at each other the way that they do afterward that can't be envisioned as anything else but misguided thoughts of lust. Not to mention the fact that this was supposed to be a remake of a commercial that Folgers aired for decades, and that trying to modernize it may seem like a logical step. But because certain subtle details had to be changed for the sake of change, the 21st century remake is going to be forever compared to the original ad. And the original ad will always win out because that was, at least, a more wholesome family experience. And no matter what the intention of the newer commercial was, the aforementioned stigma that it carries is going to make the new version look like a fraud in comparison. Oh, and by the way,
how dare you come all the way from West Africa and want a cup of quote-unquote real coffee?
Real coffee.
Like we said, Folgers coffee has been famously sourced from South America, which already by itself is no coffee to sneeze at. But if you can honestly say with a straight face that African coffee isn't real enough, then clearly you've been drinking tea over there this whole time. I don't blame the actor for saying that line, but I can definitely blame the writer for making such a heretical statement against coffee in general. Granted, I did find out that African coffee isn't as caffeinated as the others, but the flavor more than makes up for it. That just means you need to drink more for the full effect. And the last thing I'm going to have around here is any coffee shaming. The Folgers incest ad earns 3 out of 9 circles of Telehell. And I know this is a very weird note to go out on for the holidays, but then again, look at what I had to work with here.
You're my present this year.
Well, that's hopefully not what certain people had in mind when it came to togetherness for the holidays, but what are you gonna do? Now, as far as what we're going to be doing next, after this brief interlude from the late great Norm MacDonald, we're going to tell you what we're going to be doing starting on January 18th, when we return with Season 7 of Telehell. It's not the entire schedule that we're going to be telling you about because, let's face it, that'd be giving away the ball game right away, but I will tell you about the shows that we're going to be putting on in January, February, and March. It's all a part of our anti-holiday special, Merry Christmas! I've got nothing. And if you're still sticking around even after all this, you're a bigger trooper than I am right now. We'll be right back.
On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a partridge in a pear tree.
Hi, honey. Yeah, I just got it. It's terrific. It looks like some kind of a bird in a tree. Oh, you don't say, a partridge, huh? Well, it's great. Well, of course it was a surprise, honey. I was expecting a hat. Well, you know, I have been dropping some broad hints about maybe getting a hat. Oh, no, this is much better. It's like two gifts in one. I mean, I get the partridge, and I get a tree. Well, okay, thanks a lot, honey, and Merry Christmas.
On the fourth day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 4 calling birds, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree.
Hi, honey. Yes, I got the calling birds. Yeah, the man just dropped them off. Well, they're great. You know, they go well with the 3 French hens and the 2 other things. I don't know what they are. I got them on Wednesday. They look almost like a half a turtle and a half a dove. Turtle doves, huh? I never heard of them. No, I appreciate it's a unique gift, but the thing is, I now have 10 birds, and I'm not really a bird person. As you know, honey, I'm more of a hat person, really.
On the 7th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 7 swans to swim and 6 geese a laying, 5 gold rings, 4 calling birds, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree.
Hi, honey. Honey, we have to talk. No, you're being very generous. It's just... No, I like the 5 gold rings. They were great. Nothing wrong with that gift at all. It's just that the next day, it was right back to the bird. Holy Lord! Get back! Oh, no. Well, I'll tell you what that noise was, honey. It turns out that geese and French hens are natural enemies. Now, no more birds. Well, I don't know, honey. How about 8 hats a hatting?
On the 10th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 10 lords a leaping, 9 ladies dancing, 8 maids a milking.
Hi, honey. Yes, it was quite a surprise. No, they're not birds, are they? They're people. Well, I guess everybody's happy, honey. The maids of milking are having a little trouble. Well, I'll tell you why, because, as you know, I live in a 1-bedroom apartment and I don't have any cows. Well, right now they're trying to milk a swan.
On the 12th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 12 drummers drumming, 11 pipers piping, 10 lords a leaping, 9 ladies dancing, 8 maids a milking, 7 swans a swimming, 6 geese a laying, 5 gold rings, 4 calling birds, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves,
Honey, I think we should see other people.
And a partridge in a pear tree.
Well, folks, here we are, the end of 2024, which means that 2025 is just a stone's throw away. And with that, a brand new season of Telehell is coming. And in fact, it's coming to us so fast that we have a premiere day for it, and that would be January 18th of 2025. But before we tell you about the January shows, I want to tell you a little bit about the season itself and all the other stuff that happened in between the summer and now that kind of led to this point. If you've heard a little thing called It Happens, then you probably already know that what we originally planned on doing is not going to happen in the way that we thought it would. That being said, there is going to be a new storyline which we kind of had to cobble together at the last minute, but it is going to be a storyline, we promise. Just not going to be on a grand scale like it was planned to be. Now, that being said, our intention is to do either 15 or 16 shows for this year. And just like last year, there's going to be 3 months where there's going to be a theme for each of those months. I want to tell you about the theme for March before we get to January, because this is actually something that we've been planning now for about 2 years, but for whatever reason, things just seem to go tits up. But we now actually have more than enough leeway to take care of this now. A little something that we call the Bonfire of Vanity Projects. In the month of March, we're going to be talking about 3 subjects that happen to deal with, shall we say, eponymous projects from certain individuals. One of those shows that I've been wanting to cover for the longest time and have tried to figure out how to do, since it's one of those visual shows, but even audibly speaking, it's just going to be a weird show. Either way, on March 22nd of 2025, it's about time that we lay the hammer down on Hammerman.
Hammerman! Hammer! Hammerman! Hammer! Whenever there's a crime, some crooks are gonna do time. They all better beware, cause the Hammerman will be there.
And yes, that includes this ear drill of a theme song that you're hearing right now. Believe me, there's plenty of things to say just about this alone. But that's going to be happening on March 22nd. And then this is going to be a 3-day event. It's going to be one of those 3 shows in 3 days kinds of things. So on March 23rd, our second Bonfire of Vanity Projects is actually something that I just read up on thanks to a birthday present that I got recently. I'm always interested in showbiz tell-all books. These are things like memoirs and behind-the-scenes stuff, and just about anything that's connected to show business, because I'm always interested in how a person's life turned out nearing the end of their lives, or maybe it's just the twilight of their lives and they just wanted to tell their story now. One of those books that I got during my birthday was the memoirs of one Mr. Michael Richards.
I'm out.
And in spite of a certain career-ending moment in the early 2000s that he does talk about in his memoirs called Entrances and Exits, there was one thing that he did before that a lot of people didn't exactly think was going to be anything but him being Kramer again. Except it wasn't him trying to be Kramer again, it was just trying to be a different character altogether. And we'll talk about all the things that came together and also came apart when we talk about the year 2000 sitcom bomb, The Michael Richards Show. Again, that is on March 23rd of 2025. And then we wrap up the Bonfire of Vanity Projects the next day on March 24th with a look at, well, he's another comedic idol of mine who has also kind of reached a point of polarity in recent years. It's interesting because the guy's a comedic legend and has done many things, not just for comedy, but also as a humanitarian. He's also managed to do some things. And he was able to do all kinds of comedic things, except for his own talk show. And the story about this particular show, and the fact that this show only lasted 5 days, is kind of interesting. And before you jump to conclusions and think you already know the ending, I mean, this was intentional that it lasted 5 days. And we'll explain everything about that and the process when we talk about Jerry Lewis's short-lived, and I do mean short-lived, 1984 talk show.
Singer Mel Torme.
I don't want to resent any kind of break-in, I'll tell you that when I'm talking.
I'm sorry. All this plus the plastic surgeon to the stars on the next Jerry Lewis show. I can't wait.
Don't miss Jerry and his guests tonight at 10:30 on Metro Media 32.
So that's the month of March. The Bonfire of Vanity Projects. MC Hammer, Michael Richards, Jerry Lewis. Stay tuned for that. As we go to February, we have 2 things in the pipeline for February, and both of them involve one of our patrons. In fact, one is going to be a guest appearance by that patron because He chipped into the Producer of the Damned level on our Patreon, and also that entitles him to a bonus request. He actually requested something to us a couple years ago with the You Don't Know Jack TV adaptation, and thankfully, for the sake of being as welcoming as possible, because he made this, I guess you could say, tier upgrade to Producer of the Damned, he's going to be involved heavily in our February shows. And on February 9th, we're going to be taking a look at a TV movie that not a lot has heard of. I'm going to be honest with you. Very few people have, and the only reason why it even exists currently is because of a YouTube channel that's been around for years called Fuzzy Memories. Fuzzy Memories is based out of Chicago, and they're probably better at finding lost media than anybody I know, and that even includes some of our sponsors, but don't worry, that's just because, Fuzzy Memories is its own organization. I mean, they pretty much, dig and dig and dig and look for all kinds of things that few people have ever heard of, except for the fact that I have seen this TV movie at least one time. It aired, on a syndicated channel, and I remember watching this and thinking to myself, not only is this contrived, not only is this an insult to game shows, not only is this an insult to rom-coms, but because it's going to be the month of February, I can't think of a better thing to commemorate Valentine's Day with. It's a 1984 TV movie starring Gil Gerard, Jamie Farr, and Suzanne Pleshette, among others, and it's called For Love or Money.
I think now would be a good time for you to make your move.
Tonight, the ultimate game show.
We're giving away $1 million here.
We go for the money.
But there's a catch.
If you take the $1 million,
Then you have to agree never to see each other again.
Suzanne Pleshette and Gil Gerard must choose between a hot romance.
I think I'm in love with her.
Or a cool $1 million for love or money.
And I guess the reason that we're choosing this as the Valentine show is the same reason why our patron, who's involved in all this, is going to be a guest star, because Chris Michaud happens to host a show called Mall Night Long, and he is indeed the patron in question. So, who better to lead the way in a TV movie about a possibly fixed game show than a guy that hosts his own game show style experience, and we'll get to more on that when we get to February 9th. But that's just one thing that he's getting involved with. He did make a request, and that request is going to be the show that's going to be dropping on February 23rd of 2025, and I had to think a little bit about this just because this is one of those cases where the pilot movie was good. There was a 2-hour pilot for this, and I've seen the 2-hour pilot, and it was very much entertaining and action-packed and quintessential 80s action cheese, I guess you could say. The series that came afterwards, that wound up maybe exhibiting about 10% of what made the TV movie great. So we'll find out what happens as a flat tire is pretty much punctured in The Highwayman.
When there's terror on the highway and danger in the fast lane,
Leave me alone!
it's time for a new breed of lawmen to hit the road. These lawmen ride the highway with a vengeance.
Who are these two men?
Sam Jones is the highwayman.
Take a step on the wrong side of the law, you get me on your tail.
Jacko is Jetto.
Bad luck.
Together,
We're assault. And battery!
ride with the ultimate road warrior.
The highwayman. Get out!
Dealing justice in a world gone bad.
Watch out!
Two guys out to energize your Friday.
Aye!
Coming in 4 days, The Highwayman.
Now, again, the TV movie, the original TV movie, The Highwayman, was a pretty damn good movie. Something got lost in translation, and since Mr. Chris Michaud requested this, I got to find out what went wrong with The Highwayman along with everybody else. So that is, again, on February 23rd. Now, let's talk about January. And before we talk about January, I want to be absolutely clear here that a lot of these shows that we plan on doing, they are planned out well in advance. And sometimes you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. Sometimes things just happen to fall into the right place. Sometimes things just happen to be, coincidental that it winds up happening. But I want to tell you now, before I tell you the titles of these shows, that we planned on doing this a long time ago, regardless of what wound up happening in the news. And I say this because these 3 shows, which again is going to be another 3-show and 3-day thing, it's going to be the January 18th, 19th, and 20th. These shows have a theme as well. And that theme is that the people involved in these shows should not be in charge of anything. And that's for lack of a more creative title, but let's just call it that for now. People who should not be in charge of anything. That being said, we promised that we were going to do this for our season premieres, so some of you may already know about this already. But on January 18th, our Season 7 premiere subject is a sitcom that aired exactly one time in the UK. So it's going to be our first ever UK show that we're covering. And I want to say that there was a lot of, listen, the research that I did on this show, like every other show that I review here, whoever created the show seemed to have had the best of intentions. And that's all I'm going to say about this for the moment, because the rest of this story is beyond belief, as we are going to take a look. Season 7 premiere, January 18th. Heil, honey, I'm home.
Heil, honey.
Heil, honey.
Heil, honey.
Heil, honey.
Heil, honey.
Hello.
I'm home. Heil, honey.
Heil, honey.
Smile, honey. Because I'm home. Gee, it's great to
It is a sitcom. It is a sitcom that aired on British television, and it is a sitcom that pretty much turns Adolf Hitler into a 1950s sitcom character.
Heil, honey, I'm home.
That's the setup. Okay, that is the setup, and the execution of it is going to be, you'll know when you hear it, but that's on the 18th. On January 19th, and in keeping with our theme of people who should not be in charge of anything, once upon a time in the state of California, there was a recall election. And during that recall election, they got rid of the current governor and replaced them with a movie star. But before the movie star took the job, there was approximately 174 other people that wanted to run for governor of California. And unfortunately, this was one of those things that just seemed inevitable to exploit. So much so that we're going to be crossing off another first on the Telehell list of things that we need to cover. A cable show. Yes, we're going to be covering our first ever cable TV show in 2003's one-time-only game show network special / gubernatorial debate called Who Wants to Govern California? This was a thing that happened. It aired nationally, and it just goes to show you that sometimes we never learn from our mistakes, as evident in the show that we're going to be covering on January 20th, Inauguration Day 2025. And again, completely unintentional that this wound up working this way. No matter who wound up winning the White House, I mean, we were going to do these 3 shows regardless. So if Harris won, we would have done these shows. You know who won, we're doing these shows anyway. But it's fitting that on Inauguration Day that maybe the least qualified person, or in this case, persons, to sit at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue is probably the ones that we need to rip apart the most. Ladies and gentlemen, we must now complete the trilogy. And also this trilogy of episodes, but especially the trilogy that we started all the way back in episode 21, I think it was, and 22. And God help me, it's the Brady Bunch in the White House from 2002.
Celebrate the times that make her great. America, America, my home. Hand in hand, march out across the land.
Because all horror stories need to have their trilogy. So, let's recap. January 18th, our first show of Season 7, 1990's Heil Honey, I'm Home, which aired on British television. The day after that, January 19th, Who Wants to Govern California, a game show / debate that had absolutely no winners, quite honestly. January 20th, I'm dreading this with all sorts of anticipation, but I'm doing it anyway. The Brady Bunch in the White House, a 2002 TV movie starring none of the actual Bradys, I forgot to mention, and we'll get to the reason behind that when we get there. February 9th, the 1984 TV movie For Love or Money. It's where love meets games, and we will have a certified game show host in the proceedings. February 23rd, something that game show host requested, 1987's The Highwayman. And then in March 22nd, the Bonfire of Vanity Project starts things off with Hammerman from 1991. The next day, on March 23rd, The Michael Richards Show from the year 2000. And then on March 24th, The Jerry Lewis Talk Show from 1984. And we should probably point out, before we go even further than we are right now, some of these dates are not 100% locked in, because we're already telling you about stuff that's happening months in advance. So, as they say on TV and any other place a showbiz event is taking place, dates are subject to change. And that just about covers the first half of our season. Now, like I said, our plan right now is to go from January to June, and that's how I think it's going to be just from here on forward because, well, in the real world, I do all my busy work in the fall and December, and things just had to shift around a little bit. So, anyway, before I completely melt down altogether, all I want to say at this point, aside from happy holidays, hope the new year goes well for a lot of us, and more importantly than that, thank you all very much for your patience as we get our shit together for Season 7. And even more important... Oh, crap, I forgot to uninvite this guy.
Oh, Mary! Am I late? Where did everybody go?
Oh, Santa, I'm really sorry. I should have texted you, but, we don't get the best Wi-Fi down here. Our season actually starts in January, and because of that, we kind of skipped doing a Christmas show this year. It's really flying by the seat of our pants, so, but don't worry, you didn't make a trip for nothing. I do have the naughty list from the boss, and he wanted me to give it to you personally this year, so, no harm, no foul, and, I'm sorry that you had to come all this way for seemingly nothing.
Well, to be fair, I've kind of had moments where I wanted to take it easy for a year or so. I think I did a few TV movies about that very subject a few times, but I can digress too. Other than that, are you sure you don't need anything?
There isn't really anything worth needing this year, Santa. It's just, kind of a cobbled together last minute thing. I wish we were doing something that you could give a moral on, because that's usually what you do when you come here, but yeah, we just, we really had nothing.
Oh, well, I don't know how much of a moral I can do here, but I'll tell you what. You put together something at the last minute, it seems. Did you not?
Well, I did. I mean, you can see when I'm sleeping and know when I'm awake, so, you should know this by now, right?
Of course, my mistake. That's the thing about traveling from the North Pole to the underworld. Sometimes you get a little jet-lagged. But anyway, you put together something seemingly out of nowhere, seemingly from whatever pieces that you had lying around, and yet you still managed to pad out an hour's worth of time or so. Did you not?
I guess that's what I did.
And I believe you invoked, was it the Garfield Christmas special? Yeah. You mentioned the Garfield Christmas special and the part where Odie makes Garfield a back scratcher from stuff that he found lying around in the barn. Think of that as the best possible metaphor for what you did just now.
I guess? I don't know. I mean, I don't want to be ungrateful for all this stuff. It's just, even I thought this was lazy.
Now. Sometimes the best gifts are ones that you make by hand. Sometimes it's the ones that you cobble together from seemingly nothing to make something. And that is why most people usually invoke the thought that it's the thought that counts. So don't think of this as anything lazy. Think of this as you tried to do something different, and let's face it, it's just gonna wind up getting shoved in the back of someone's closet someday, but you tried. You put in effort. That's better than nothing.
Well, I guess. But one thing's for sure, I'll definitely put in a lot more effort once we get to January. I mean, I gotta deliver on all that stuff, because I just announced what the shows were.
So I've heard. You're really going to do the sitcom about Hitler?
Well, it's kind of bad TV 101. I kind of feel like I have to.
Well, it's your show. I'm not gonna judge. Although, you've been on our naughty list so many times during your life, I'm kind of wondering if there's something I need to know here. But anyway, neither here nor there. I've got the naughty list. I'm getting out of here, and you have yourself a happy new year.
Thanks, Santa. It's just, again, I really wish I knew what I was doing here.
That's okay. No one truly has it all figured out until it absolutely has to happen. Now, if you'll excuse me, I really need to figure something about this jet lag thing. I've been flying around the world for years and years and years, and all of a sudden it's hit up on me. So, I guess it's time for anything. Now then, on Dasher, on Dancer, and you know the drill by now. Ho, 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 ho.
Well, I think we can all agree this was a pretty dumb Christmas show. We'll see you in 2025, and hopefully with actual words and a script this time. Happy holidays, everybody.
Telehell was written, produced, edited, and narrated by me, Justin Hart. All clips used in this program are protected under the Fair Use Doctrine of the U.S. Copyright Act of 1976, and all clips used come courtesy of their respective companies and owners. Some of the music used in this program comes courtesy of YouTube and their audio library service. Telehell is a production of Horton Road and is distributed by Libsyn. We have reason to believe that the world may soon become an actual living hell in the next few months, if not few years from now. Fortunately, our social media feeds are as close as we're going to get to having heaven on earth. So please, if you have Facebook, Blue Sky, or yes, even X, follow us at Telehell Podcast. Feel free to chip in to future episodes by giving us a couple coins at our Patreon, also at Telehell Podcast. Like, comment, rate, subscribe wherever you hear this show, particularly Apple, Pandora, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and even our YouTube page, all of which will be either at Telehell Podcast or at Telehell. One way or another, you'll get there. And of course, if you heard something that you didn't quite agree with us on, you're more than welcome to lay it into us at our complaint line, telehellpodcast@gmail.com.
great show. From Morton to Road.